What's the scariest thing that's ever woken you up during the middle of the night? When I was a kid, we went camping in the woods. I heard what I thought was a bear outside our pop-up camper and it woke me up. Me and my two brothers were sleeping on one side, with me in the middle, and our parents were sleeping on the other side. It was completely dark so I couldn't see a thing, but I could hear what I thought was a bear snorting around outside. I was scared to death. I couldn't figure out a way to climb over my brothers and cross to the other side to wake up my father, without making noise and alerting the bear to the tasty meal waiting inside. So, I just lied there perfectly still for the whole night, waiting for giant claws to rip their way through the canvas. As the sun came up and I started to see, I noticed that the lump that was my father in a sleeping bag was rising and falling with the bear snorting. Turns out my dad's snoring had kept me up all night in absolute fear. A poster falling down from the wall. I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard my scream. Once I woke up because I heard music playing from the kitchen and I thought maybe mum forgot to turn the radio off. I went through the dark hallway to the kitchen to turn the radio off, but when I was standing in the dark kitchen there was no music playing. Everything was as quiet as always at 3 AM. There's an oldish post on Tumblr about someone who kept hearing carnival music in their apartment but could never find the source. Turns out that they were having auditory hallucinations. My dog barking because cops were banging on the doors and windows of our Airbnb, flashing their lights into each and every room. Called 911 and she told us to not answer the door because she doesn't see cops in our area. Yup. My cat howling at another cat through a screen in the door. Sounded like a demon. The night I watched the movie The Conjuring, I woke up to my bed shaking and all the clothes hanging in my closet rattling like crazy. Took me quite some time to realize it was an earthquake and not the devil come visiting. When I was in my final year at high school, I had trouble sleeping at night with my final exams approaching. I think I dozed off for a bit and suddenly woke up to see a person's face staring in through my window grill. I was in such a panic I literally couldn't move or scream. Luckily he saw me wake up and escaped. My sister had an all-white clown doll that hung from the ceiling on a little swing. In the summertime, we slept with our doors and windows open to get the cool air in. When I woke up one night hearing some tapping against her window down the hall, if I sat up in bed and looked down the hall, and I could see into the front of her bedroom. So I did, and I see this damn clown swinging back and forth against her window, backlit by the street lamp, but clearly staring directly into my soul like it was all it desired in this world. I didn't sleep well that summer. I woke up with chunks of teeth in my mouth and severe abdominal pain. Probably swallowed some tooth. Then, I looked across the room and there was a pool of blood on the opposite side of the room. After quickly spitting out the rest of the teeth bits, I went to the bathroom and was shocked to see my entire face was bleeding, but from a deep cut in my chin and not from my missing tooth. I realized that I had sleepwalked, then decided to fall asleep while standing on the other side of the room and did a belly flop straight on the floor, and then somehow after all of that, got up again and walked back into bed and fell asleep for a few more hours. I had to get a new tooth from a student doctor that I've never gotten fixed. I also ended super gluing my busted chin together because I couldn't afford stitches. I was drifting off, and was already dreaming, but it seemed I was still awake. Because I was dreaming of myself in bed, in my room, but in my dream I was awake. I dreamt some people or person swung through the bedroom door and ran towards me and in an instant and hit me with all their might with some heavy object. I shook awake. It was a similar feeling when you may startle yourself awake because it seems like you're falling. It took a moment for my brain to tell me I was alone, and it was just a dream. It was so strange, exhilarating, scary. Never had a dream like it since. Oh my god. I once had a dream where I was asleep in bed, rolled over, and the person next to me was not my husband. He was terrifying looking. He reached for me and I screamed and ran for the door. There was another terrifying stranger danger at our bedroom door who reached for me too. So I screamed again and bolted and I woke up halfway in the bathroom with my husband going "Sure okay, you're okay." I think I gave him a heart attack that night. I had a large camel spider run over my face at about 3 AM. That was not a pleasant sensation. The sound of my front door handle jiggling and the door being opened. My dog launched off the bed and slammed into the door while snarling. He's never acted like that. I called him back to me because I knew it was my roommate coming home. Roommate came out of his room and asked what was going on. Apparently he'd forgotten to lock the front door. I heard someone quietly trying my front door knob late at night. I wasn't quite asleep yet. I checked with my roommate later, and it wasn't them. It happened once or twice more, but I never got to the door quickly enough to see who it was through the peephole. Nothing ever came of it, and I live somewhere else now. The extremely realistic feeling of a bare hand grabbing my foot, which made me wake up instantly only to realize it was somehow a dream. It turned out to be funny. Someone was trying loudly to break into a car just outside my ground floor bedroom window that faced a large parking lot in an apartment complex. He was trying to smash the windows and wasn't strong enough, and was yelling a lot. I called the police. I heard every word they said when they showed up. It turned out that he was trying to break into his own car because he was too drunk to find his own keys in his own pocket. My parents visited my wife and I, and since we didn't have 2 bedrooms, we let them stay in our bedroom. But we have 2 cats and they can open the bedroom door if it isn't locked by key. We told them to remember to close it. Sometime at night I hear a scream followed by cat. Come to find out that my mom went to use the bathroom but forgot to lock the bedroom door afterwards, and my dad was greeted by my cat's face staring at his. Honestly, was probably scarier for my cat, who was expecting to see me instead. My children, I love them more than anything, but they are some sneaky amorphous and they wake you up in a way so gentle that you don't realize it. Then you open your eyes and they are 3 inches from your face. Like, good morning, it's 4 AM. Wouldn't change it for the world. BF was out of town and I heard a voice in the middle of the night. My dogs woke up and barked too. Heard the voice again, sounded like a British woman. Grabbed the gun and started lurking the house like WTF. It was my carbon monoxide detector that apparently talks to tell me the battery was low, but it scared the shit out of me for a few minutes. My dog decided to hop onto our piano and started walking along the keys in the middle of the night. I had an industrial size rat dying from rat poison come through a panel in my closet and up into bed with me at 2 AM. When I was 18 I'd broken my leg, and it was non-weight bearing, so I was sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Woke up to a guy climbing in the window directly over my head. I'd obviously left the window open a crack and he'd seen an opportunity. To be honest, as scared as I was, I'm fairly sure I scared the shit out of him too, as he screamed and ran away after I hit him with my crutch. The worst was when the neighbor boy, 9YO, came banging on our door and ringing the doorbell at 1 AM. His mom and stepdad were fighting. Stepdad hit mom and had her on the ground with his hands around her neck trying to choke her. We've never had to call 911 before that night. This poor little boy had his 2YO sister in his arms with a completely dazed look on his face, while my mom was on the phone with 911. I sat the boy down and made sure to tell him that he was incredibly brave, and no matter what anyone tells him, he did the right thing by coming here. Even sadder as they had just moved here from across the country that week and he knew no one. My roommate screamed directly into my face at 1 AM. You best know I instinctively slapped that bastard. I did that once to my friend. He did the same that you did, but only once he realized it was me. I woke up and heard someone walking outside my bedroom window. The window was open and there were leaves on the ground. I got up and put my back against the wall next to the window. I heard a very distinct human walking sound getting closer and closer. I was pooping my pants at this point. They were now very close and I could see out the window, but I could not see them. I was pressed against the wall as the footsteps got closer and closer. Then the footsteps got quieter as the being got farther away. It took every nerve in my being to look out that window and nothing. I went outside and looked back there, baseball bat in hand, and saw a very large possum. No scary criminal. When I went cycling and camping alone in Saguaro National Park, Tucson, AZ, which maybe wasn't the smartest thing to do by yourself. I was in my mid-20s and went specifically to look for and photograph animals, namely snakes, so I had no fear of creatures. I set up camp one night in a gravelly area, and was woken up in the middle of the night by footsteps approaching my tent in the gravel. What scared the living shit out of me, and kinda, sorry if this makes me sound like a bee, put me off camping alone forever, is that it really sounded like something very heavy and bipedal, like a crazy person coming to murder me, or Sasquatch. It approached my tent with slow, heavy footsteps crunching in the gravel. I didn't hear any other sound, no breathing or rustling of clothing, just crunching gravel. There were just 2 footsteps, not 4. It came right up to the tent, then walked away, slowly. I have no idea what it was, and it may have been a mountain lion. They can walk pretty stealthily, but the thought of a human being walking around in the desert at night and slowly approaching me while I slept is what scared me the most, not the thought of an animal or monster. I wanted to call out hello, but was literally paralyzed with fear. I didn't sleep again that night, but came out at sunrise to find 0 evidence, and just carried on with my trip without incident, but have not been camping alone since. Tornado siren. In the Midwest they test them once a month and you get used to it, but holy hell, when it goes off at 3 AM your subconscious mind dumps adrenaline into you. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, like literally 29-year-old about to have my wife call an ambulance. My first tornado. Woke and listened carefully and asked the wife, is that rain or wind? Just then both of our phones started beeping alerts and that put us in motion. In hindsight we reacted about a minute later than we should have. Got lucky and it contacted the ground about a mile past us. I don't know if it counts, but we were in the field in Camp Pendleton, CA, and sleeping in just our mummy bags under the stars, and I woke up in the night for whatever reason and my eyes focused on the next guy over in our circle who had one of the largest spiders I've ever seen in the wild sitting on his forehead, maybe getting warm or something. Freaked me the F out. I flicked it off of him and zipped my bag all the way up so there was just the breathing hole, and used my boonie cover to plug that and just breathed through the little vents. The shadow of a person next to the bed. My first and last night terror. A shadow person from a sleep paralysis episode. I have had sleep paralysis twice. I never see anything, but I know if I could just move a bit I would be able to see something standing in the doorway. Worst was the first time. My daughter, who was 3 at the time, is in bed with me, and I feel completely paralyzed and unable to protect her. It was horrendous. I don't believe in anything supernatural, but obviously my mind was playing tricks on me at the time. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was about 9 years old on the top bunk, and was woke up when pieces of the ceiling landed on me and warm, furry things also landed all over me and were scurrying across my face, chest and limbs. I jerked up and saw mice skittering all over the place and pieces of the ceiling missing, which were on the bunk where I had been sleeping. I got up and the noise woke up my friend's mom, who came in, saw the mice running around the bed where I had been, and screamed blue murder. Mice were continuing to periodically poke their heads out of the hole in the ceiling. The people who lived in the apartment above my friend had a mouse problem, and the mice had an extensive nest in between the 2 apartments in the floor space. After the landlord looked at the problem, my friend slept over at my house from then on. My wife and I were separated and I was sleeping in the basement apartment of our home. She woke me in the middle of the night to come upstairs. There in the kitchen was an intruder sitting calmly at the table. My wife left me alone with this person at 3 AM. I was shaking, scared that this person would snap and get violent. Turns out he was stoned out of his mind and my wife had forgotten to lock the front door. She had left to call the police. I found out later that she had found him in my son's room. There aren't many things scarier than finding a stranger in your house in the middle of the night.